Go grab the heaviest wrench you own, because I'm about to snap one right in front of you. This one's brand new, $40, says forged right on the handle. Watch. It breaks clean in two and clatters on the bench. Now, here's a $3 wrench from a junk bin, older than I am. Same bar, same lean, and it just bends a hair and holds. Look at those two pieces of the new one sitting there next to the old Survivor. That $40 wrench cost you 13 times what the old one did, and it's the one that gave up. That's not bad luck, that's not a bad batch. The old iron was hammered and the new stuff was poured. And today I'm going to show you how to tell those two apart in about 10 seconds at a flea market for free, so you never buy a snapper again. Set the pieces down and stay with me, because this one saves you real money. Every year folks throw good tools out and buy worse ones. And there's a fortune sitting in junk bins for pocket change if you know what to listen for. So here's the whole job, and I'll do it in two parts while you watch. Part 1, I'll teach you the 3 free tests that spot a genuine hammered tool: the ring, the spark, and the file. Part 2, I'll take a rusted $3 wreck and bring it back to a tool that outlasts anything on the shelf today. And near the end, I'll show you a metal in your grandfather's toolbox that no factory on earth can make anymore. Real stuff gone, and I'll prove why that old gate in the barn never rusted. 3 free tests to find it, 1 cheap fix to save it. That's the video. My name's Earl. I've spent 50 years buying tools other men gave up on, and I've never once bought a new one when an old one was sitting right there. Let's start with part 1, and let's find you a good tool. Here's the first test, and it's the easiest one. It's the ring. You hold the tool loose, pinch it between 2 fingers, don't grip it in your fist because your hand kills the sound. Then you tap it with something hard, a bolt or a key, right on the body of it. Good steel rings. It sings, a clear note that hangs in the air for a second. Bad steel goes clunk, dead, like tapping a brick. And there's a real reason for that, not a superstition. Cast iron has graphite flakes scattered all through it, little slivers of carbon. And those flakes soak up the vibration before it can turn into sound. So a cast tool can't ring. It physically can't. A cracked tool can't ring either, because the crack breaks the note in half. This is the same tap test the railroads used for 100 years. A man with a long hammer would walk the length of a train and tap every wheel, one after another, listening. A good wheel rang, a cracked wheel went dead, and that wheel came off before it killed anybody. You're doing the exact same thing over a $5 bin. So that's test 1. Hold it loose, tap it, listen for the bell. If you only remember one thing today, subscribe so the next old skill finds you. And then let me tell you what you're really up against, because this is where they've been fooling you. That word forged stamped on a new tool, it means almost nothing now. There's no inspector checking it. Drop forged is marketing language, loosely policed, and plenty of shiny import tools wearing that stamp are cast, or stamped out of soft pot metal that never saw a hammer. They put the word on the blister pack because the word sells. The metal underneath doesn't have to match it, and the difference underneath is not small. Forged steel runs about 26% higher in tensile strength than cast, and in fatigue, that's the strength that matters when you lean on a thing over and over. Forged parts test anywhere from 37 to 50% stronger. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between a wrench that flexes for 40 years and one that snaps the first time you put a cheater bar on it. When you pour hot metal into a mold, it cools with the grain running every which way, random, and it cools with tiny voids in it, pockets and shrinkage cracks where the metal pulled away from itself as it hardened. Those voids are built-in crack starters. Every one of them is a place a break can begin. Hammering fixes exactly that. When a smith beats hot steel, he's squeezing those voids shut and bending the grain so it flows with the shape of the tool, like the grain in a good axe handle follows the curve. Bend before it breaks. That's what the flowing grain buys you. Random grain snaps, flowing grain gives. Hammered, not poured. That's the whole difference. And now you can see it isn't a saying, it's metal. So the con is simple once you know it. A $3 hammered wrench beats a $60 cast one on strength and outlives the man who buys it. The whole tool business runs about $40 billion a year now, most of it battery and plastic gear built to last 7 to 10 years, and then land in the trash so you buy another. Meanwhile, a hand-forged wrench from 1940 is still working, and a good one sells for 10 times its old price at an antique market. There's no money in selling you a tool that lasts forever, so nobody makes one. That's not a conspiracy. It's just arithmetic, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now, part 1 has 3 tests, and the ring was the first. Here's the second, and it throws sparks, so it's the fun one. It's the spark test, and it's how a blacksmith knows what steel he's holding in 1 second flat, for free. You touch the tool to a bench grinder, light, just a kiss. Watch the sparks. Soft, low-carbon junk metal throws a few dull, lazy orange streaks that die quick. Real tool steel, the good hard stuff, erupts. The sparks burst and fork and branch in a little white starburst, bright, busy, like tiny fireworks. That branching is the carbon in the steel burning, and the more carbon, the more it forks. This isn't guesswork. There are lab versions of this exact test that read carbon content down to 0.05% just off the spark pattern. A smith doesn't have the lab, he doesn't need it. He's read 10,000 sparks, and he knows a hard tool from a soft one before the streak hits the floor. Learn the two shapes, and you've got it. Dull and few and orange, that's soft. Leave it. Bright and forking and white, that's carbon. That's a tool worth taking home. The sparks don't lie, and nobody can stamp a lie onto a spark. Third test, and it's the quietest one, so you can do it right there in the aisle with nobody watching. It's the file test. You take a small file and you draw it across the edge of the tool, firm. On a properly hardened tool steel, that's around Rockwell 58 to 62, hard as a good chisel, the file skates. It slides right off and won't bite because the tool is harder than the file. On soft metal or cast junk, the file digs in and bites and leaves a mark. Skate means hard, bite means soft. 10 seconds, no sparks, no noise, and you know whether that edge was ever hardened at all. So there's part one, all three. Hold it loose and tap it. Does it ring? Kiss the grinder. Does it spark white? Draw a file. Does it skate? Ring, spark, skate. Any tool that passes all three is real, and it's probably sitting in a bin, marked a couple of dollars, because the fella selling it doesn't know what you now know. Let me tell you where these tests come from, because it's a better story than any tool commercial. Before we poured and machined tools by the millions, everything was hammered. By hand, then by the trip hammer, a big water-powered mallet that fell and lifted and fell, and then by James Nasmyth's steam hammer in 1839, a monster that could forge a ship's part with one blow. And still, so the story goes, crack an eggshell in a wine glass without breaking the glass. That's control. That's why the target of all this, the old power hammers you'll see in the blacksmith videos, matter. They didn't melt metal and pour it into a shape. They packed it tight, blow by blow, until the grain ran dense all the way through, and the smiths who ran them had no gauges. They read heat and hardness by color. When you temper steel, that's the step that takes it from brittle hard to tough and hard. A thin skin of oxide forms as it warms, and that skin changes color as the temperature climbs. Pale straw, around 400 and change, means a hard cutting edge. Deeper down through gold and purple to a full blue, up near 600 degrees, means a springy, tough spine that won't crack. The whole useful scale lives in a narrow band, roughly 400 to 700 degrees, and a few degrees changes the color. A good smith watched that color crawl up the blade and pulled it at exactly the right shade. Straw for the edge, blue for the back. Heat treating a tool by eye, no instrument on the bench. People did that for centuries. We built machines to replace the eye, and the eye was better. Now here's the reveal I promised, and it's the biggest one, so I saved it. There's a metal your grandfather owned that we simply cannot make anymore. It's called wrought iron, real wrought iron, not the decorative stuff they slap that name on at the garden center. Real wrought iron is nearly pure, under 0.08% carbon, and it's laced through with 1 to 4% of a glassy slag. Stretched into thousands of tiny fibers, stringers a fraction of a millimeter thick, running the length of the metal like the grain in oak. It's not a solid, it's a laminate, iron and glass fiber woven together. And here's the thing those glass fibers do. They physically block rust from getting a foothold and traveling through the metal. Real wrought iron resists corrosion in a way modern steel just doesn't. That's why the old gate in the barn, the one nobody ever painted, still isn't eaten through. It isn't lucky. It's made of something better. And we stopped making it. Commercially, wrought iron hasn't been produced in decades. 5,000 years that material served people. The oldest worked iron on Earth. And it's effectively extinct now. Because it was slower and costlier to make than the steel we pour today. So rust was never inevitable. We had the metal that beat it, and we traded it for the metal that's cheap to pour. The rust-free tool in your barn is a piece of a technology that's gone. Hold on to it. All right, part 2. I promised I'd take a wreck and bring it back, so let's do it. This is a pipe wrench I paid $3 for. C's solid, jaws rusted shut, looks like garbage. But it rang true and the file skated, so I know there's good steel under the crud. Here's the whole fix. Step 1, you soak it. Not with the fancy spray, a plain penetrating oil, the cheap kind, and you let it sit. Don't force the jaws, don't hammer them, don't wrench on them while they're dry because you'll snap a good tool doing that. You let the oil crawl into the rust and do the work. Light seas a couple hours, locked up hard, leave it overnight. While it soaks, there's nothing to do but wait. So that's your patience, not your muscle. Step 2, once it moves, you work it loose gentle, back and forth, adding oil until it swings free. Then you knock the loose rust off with a brass brush or a bit of steel wool. Not a grinder. You're cleaning it, not skinning it. You want the pitting to stay. The pitting is just old age, and old age isn't the problem. Step 3, if it's got a wood handle that's cracked or loose, you rehang it. Pull the old one, clean the socket, fit a new handle, wedge it tight. $2 and 10 minutes. Step 4, the finish, and this is the step everybody skips. If you had to grind an edge back, say it's a chisel or a knife, not a wrench, you've made it soft where the grinder heated it and you have to retemper it. Warm it slow and watch the color crawl and pull it at straw for a hard edge. Straw, not past it. That's the old smith's eye doing the work of a $500 oven. And that's it. $3 wreck, maybe $5 of oil and a handle. And you've got a tool that tests stronger than the $60 new one and will outlast you. My neighbor's nephew Carl's got a pipe wrench with no name left on it, worn smooth, older than I am. Last spring, the two of us were breaking a rusted union under a sink, and he handed me a brand new one to try first. I leaned on it and it rounded off and cracked. He picked up his old nameless wrench, set it on the same nut, and it came loose like it was nothing. His $3 wrench beat my new one lying right there beside it on the floor. Hammered, not poured, that's the lesson. And it cost me a broken wrench to learn it in front of a younger man, which is the worst way to learn anything. Now let me be straight with you, because not every old tool is treasure, and I won't tell you it is. A rusted stamped spanner is still junk. Stamping isn't forging, and no amount of oil fixes soft metal. The tests are what sort it. If it won't ring, and the file bites right in, walk away, no matter how old and charming it looks. Deep rust that's eaten clean through a jaw or a blade is gone. You can clean surface pitting, but you can't put back metal that's rusted away. And a handle can be replaced, but a cracked head can't. That dead clunk is telling you the crack's already inside, same as the railroad wheel. So the tests don't just find the good ones, they save you from hauling home junk that looks the part. One more, and it's the opposite advice, because sometimes the right move is to do nothing. If a tool rings true and skates a file and it's already working, don't you dare grind the life out of it to make it shiny. That dark old surface and that pitting are harmless, and every pass of a grinder takes off hardened steel you can never put back. Clean it, oil it, use it. A working tool doesn't need to be pretty. The smiths would tell you the same. Leave a good thing alone. Here's your proof it works, plain. Blacksmiths, real ones, working today, don't guess what steel they've picked up. They spark it on a grinder and they read it, and they bet their hands and their whole day's work on that 1-second test being right. If it were folklore, they'd have stopped doing it a century ago. They didn't. It's the first thing a smith does with an unknown bar of metal every single time. So step back and look at what we did. We snapped a $40 wrench and a $3 one held. We learned why. The old iron was hammered, the grain flows, it bends before it breaks. And we learned there's a rust-proof metal in the old barns that no factory can make anymore. There's no commercial for the wrench you already own, no ad for the gate that won't rust. So nobody tells you. That's the only reason you didn't already know it. Let me hand you the whole thing to take to the flea market this weekend. Bring a bolt to tap with, a small file in your pocket, and your ears. Hold the tool loose and tap it. It should ring like a bell, not clunk. Kiss it to a grinder if there's one around. Real tool steel bursts into little white sparks. Soft junk throws a few dull orange streaks. Draw the file across the edge. It should skate off hard, not bite and soft. Ring, spark, skate. Anything that passes all three is forged, and it's worth 10 times what they're asking. Take it home, soak it in cheap oil, hours for light rust, overnight for a hard seize, brush it, rehang the handle, and if you sharpened it, retemper the edge to straw and no further. $3 in, a tool for 3 generations out. And here's the one thing to carry out the door, the rule under all of it. Hammered, not poured. If it's hammered, the grain flows and it gives If it's poured, it's random inside and it snaps, and you can hear it and see it for free before you spend a dime. Go do it tonight. Go pull the oldest tool in your garage off the shelf, hold it loose, and tap it, and hear for yourself whether it rings. Then tell me down below 2 things. What's the oldest tool you own that still outworks its brand new replacement? And has one of these new forged tools ever snapped on you at the worst possible moment? I read every one of them. Go find your fortune in the junk bin.